Welcome to Talk South Asian to me. My name is Michelle.
And my name is Michelle. Just kidding. My name is Anisha, and this is my friend Michelle the Bubblehead. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central and hear us react to each other's stories about mental health and growing up in different South Asian households.
And remember, this podcast is not therapy. Engage with what feels entertaining and resonates with you and leave what doesn't. I like that little change in intro.
Change in intro. Right here is Miss Michelle, a souvenir I stole from her wedding.
Woohoo! It was a fun wedding.
Isn't she cute? Now she stares at me on my desktop and brightens
While
my
sticking
day.
my tongue out. Sticking my tongue out.
She brightens my day.
It was for like a competitive game tradition that we have. So it matched the theme of our competitiveness that me and my now husband have. So
and Team Bride was all about Team Bride right here.
Woo!
I love it.
All fun. I love it.
All fun and games.
So crazy to be on the other side.
Woohoo! Michelle is married. She is a missus.
Doing a podcast and wedding planning. What?
Exactly. She's just killing it on all fronts. Amazing.
Am I prioritizing rest? Let's find out. Keep on listening.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear all about it, Michelle. Very apt timing, I would say.
Right?
It really is. So, without further ado, what is our topic today? We are on Z, our last episode of season 1 of our podcast.
Wow. This is the last one of season 1.
We did it. We made it to the last
episode of season 1.
High five. Woo! We did it. Killing it.
High five.
So, drumroll please. Our last episode topic is Z's and mental health, aka sleep and mental health. We're going to be examining the relationship between sleep quality and mental well-being, and also include a couple of tips for improving sleep habits because it supports your mental health as well, which our podcast is all about.
Okay, wait. That's how you read it? Z's?
Z.
I hear it as Z.
So it's Z and mental health or Z's and mental health. What do you prefer?
Yeah. That's so funny. All my life, that's how I've read it in my head.
You know, actually, that's interesting. How do I read it when I read it? I don't think I even read it. I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, I know what that is. Next.
That's so funny.
Now I'm curious. I kind of want to know how people read it. Is it Z?
Right.
Or is it Z's? Right. Which I can't imagine anybody but me is saying Z's. I can't imagine that, but
you never know. We never know. Everyone's different.
You might surprise me. Someone please let me know if you also say Z's. Okay, well, let's get into it. Today we have a pretty research-heavy day because this is such an important topic. And I personally really, really love this topic because I recently got into this topic. I can't wait to share all about it.
I'm excited.
To start with, I want to mention that sleep and mental health actually have a bi-directional relationship. What I mean by that is sleep affects mental health affects sleep. Bi-directional. Which I liked when I was doing my research, I liked how somebody put this. They said, after all, there's a reason that people say when someone's in a bad mood, did you wake up on the wrong side of bed today? Right?
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. See, our sayings have some meaning behind them sometimes.
There you
go. So the first part of the research I'll share today is from the website mind.org.uk.
Okay.
And the first thing, well, I guess the second thing now that I want to share is this diagram that they had. Essentially, this diagram is a circle. And in that circle, there are a couple of different parts to it. So it starts with, let's say, for example, feelings of worry or stress, which leads to lack of sleep, which leads to fatigue or tiredness, which leads to the difficulty coping with day-to-day life, which leads to low self-esteem, which leads back to feelings of worry or stress. And there goes a cycle of round and round and round. It's a very cyclical problem between mental health and sleep. They're very interconnected and, like we talked about, very bi-directional.
Yeah.
So if you have, this situation happening, you might find that one, you might find it hard to fall asleep or stay asleep, or you find that that you wake up later than you'd like, maybe even earlier than you'd like, right? Kind of pulling on both sides, but that's very true. If you wake up a little later, it's because you're so tired, you sleep more. If you're waking up earlier, maybe you just have insomnia. You just can't you can't stay asleep. You might also find that you have like just disturbances sleeping while you're sleeping, such as panic attacks, flashbacks, nightmares. You might find it hard to wake up or even get out of bed. You might find that you're often tired or sleepy, whether that's because you're not sleeping enough or because you're not getting good quality sleep. And like I said, on the flip side, it could just also mean that you're just sleeping a lot, including sleeping at times when you want or need to be awake. So if you're having problems sleeping, you might be more likely to feel anxious, depressed, or even suicidal. You might be feeling lonely or isolated because, for example, you might not have the energy to see people. I had a thought, but I'm gonna keep pushing through. I'll mention that later.
Okay.
Other problems that you might have when you have problems sleeping: struggling to concentrate, making plans, decisions, essentially like what we call brain fog. Your processing ability is a little bit delayed or like just less.
Yeah.
You might feel irritable, not have enough energy to do things. Yeah. You might have generally just like problems, typically day-to-day life, at work, with family, with friends, because sleep affects how you feel, how you think, how you process, and therefore it can affect parts of your, life, your relationships with people. But it can also have a direct influence over a host of other health problems, mental health or physical health related. For example, not having sufficient proper quality sleep is linked to a lot of diseases. I won't go into all of them now because there are literally a lot linked to that. So what causes problems with sleep? That's a big question, right?
Yeah.
The things that can affect our sleep essentially are going to be a little bit different for everybody, just because everybody is a little bit different in how they function and what they, how they tend to be optimized at their homeostasis levels. But generally speaking, stresses and worries, for example, like financial worries or shelter, like housing, work problems, those can all add stresses and worries and affect how we sleep, especially at night, if you're ruminating on those thoughts and etc. Other things that affect sleep, problems with where you sleep. If you sleep somewhere uncomfortable, you're easily disturbed, you have a lot of light, you have a lot of sound, not really setting up a great, like, relaxing space for sleep to, thrive really. Health conditions relating to sleep, like sleep disorders, can also affect how we sleep. Like we talked about insomnia, things like that. Being a parent or a caretaker, definitely. You have to be kind of at the whims of your kid. If they're waking up, you're kind of tending to them. Excuse me. Taking medication, like starting it, getting off of it, being on medication, all those things can mess with sleep as well.
Right.
Recreational drugs and alcohol can affect sleep, because they're changing the way in that moment our brain chemicals and, the way that our body processes the substances. So that affects our sleep. Working late at night or being a shift worker, which basically means a shift worker is somebody who works in like evening hours, essentially, and into the early mornings. That can affect our sleep because that goes against our natural biological circadian rhythm. And I actually listened to a podcast that I'll reference later that actually says shift workers live on an average 15 years less than the average person. 15 years less. Yeah. And that's certainly something to think about, how important sleep can be.
Yeah.
Current and past trauma can also affect our quality of sleep. And then, mental and physical health problems can also affect our sleep, whether that's anxiety, for example, whether that's, physical pains or other, like physical symptoms that can affect sleep.
Right.
Those can make it difficult to have quality sleep. So, how could mental health problems affect sleep? We're going to talk about the reverse.
Okay.
So, for example, like I said, anxiety can cause, late at night, racing thoughts, you're ruminating, you're worrying about something. That can, one, keep you awake longer, but two, that can seep into your dreams and become like nightmares. And also it can turn into, in some scenarios, rare cases, panic attacks, depending on the severity of the anxiety. Depression and seasonal affective disorder can also make you sleep more because of the heaviness and the lethargy that you feel. It's more conducive to just kind of like sleeping more because it mimics the same kind of, when you're sleeping, you're a little bit more lethargic too. Sleeping more or just staying in bed for longer, both of those things. And there actually is some research that says that depression can also cause insomnia. If you're going through trauma, then that can cause flashbacks, nightmares, night terrors. Obviously, those things are going to disturb your sleep as well. And then you might feel, unsafe because of these nightmares or night terrors or flashbacks. And so you have a heightened sense of like adrenaline rushing through your body. So it makes it even harder to fall asleep and be comfortable enough to fall asleep. And certain psychiatric medications can also cause side effects like insomnia or nightmares or oversleeping.
I have heard of that too, like medications and side effects can cause insomnia.
Yeah. So we talked about all the reasons why our sleep can be disturbed. Let's talk about some ways to improve our sleep. So this is kind of a compilation of the website mind.org.uk, as well as a podcast I recently listened to. The podcast was A Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, and he interviewed a psychophysiologist, Kristen Holmes. She's quite famous, but she is most well known for working with, or she used to work and do a lot of research with like high, I forget how she phrased it, but it's like athletes, basically, like hardworking individuals and that, high performance individuals, and basically helping them optimize their ability to recover and be their best selves. And a big part of that was sleep. And so she talks in her interview about the different things that interact with sleep, like the big players that interact with sleep, and how to improve our sleep. So a lot of this also comes from her. First thing that improves your sleep, establish a routine. Sounds, fair enough. Establish a routine, sleep and wake up at the same time as consistently as possible, especially your wake time. So even if you sleep on occasion really, really late one day on a weekend, still try and wake up at the same time that you usually do. That helps your circadian rhythm, your biological clock, stay consistent. And that consistency is apparently really, really key in like the longevity and resilience of our bodies and our overall like physical health and, mental well-being.
Even if it's like lack of sleep, like you wake up at the same time and you don't get enough sleep?
Yes. So apparently that consistency is still more important. Obviously, if you're sleeping at like 2 a.m., I mean, you don't want to get up at the same time, perhaps that one time. But if you're sleeping like a little bit later, if you can still wake up at the same time, wake up at the same time, because that consistency, for some reason, like just the amount of research and data that she has, it's shown her that consistency is what creates more success for people in the research studies that she's done Um, let's see. And the other big thing that she talks about is the 10 to 4 p.m. is the most important time for our brains to be able to basically recover. And it's a very restorative time for healing for our bodies. So between 10 to 4, she talks about just like lights out sleep. That's when you need to be asleep with complete pitch black dark, if you can manage that.
Yeah.
Because the dark versus light also affect our circadian rhythms and our ability to like properly restore and do its job.
Yeah. Interesting.
Are you asleep between 10 to 4, Michelle?
Sometimes 11 to 4, maybe.
That's not bad. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah. What about you? That's the real question.
I was worse. I would be maybe 12:30 to 4. Losing out. Very important quality time, though. I wish I wrote this down when I was listening. It's the one thing I didn't quite catch, but I do remember that even a 45-minute delay in that 10 to 4 window, it decreases your recovery time. Like, for example, if you're working out, because she worked with a lot of athletes, right? So if you're working out, your ability to recover, your ability for your muscles to actually do their job, that hard work that you're putting in at the gym, it reduces significantly. I wish I could remember the number of percentage exactly. I do not. But if you're interested in this, like definitely go listen to this podcast episode.
Okay.
But it's fascinating. Like even a 45-minute difference makes a huge difference in that.
Wow.
So 10 to 4. I know this isn't conducive to our late night culture, but sleep. Other things to just help just generally in the nighttime is to just start getting into a more like relaxed state of being. So generally speaking, you know, I'm sure most people have heard, like, put away your phones, your screens, the blue light from it all. It can really disrupt your natural circadian rhythms that tell your body to like start creating melatonin and everything. So put away all screens and dim lighting as much as you possibly can, about an hour or more before bedtime. Other things that can help you continue to relax in that same like lower light: take a warm bath, listen to relaxing music, meditate, maybe read a book, do a visualization of some kind, of something, you know, peaceful, some oasis, do some breathing exercises, maybe even like a progressive muscle relaxation thing, you know, where you clench, unclench to really force your muscles to relax.
Yeah.
All things that can help promote relaxation and kind of distance yourself from maybe the go, go, go of your day, the anxiousness that you might feel. These really help kind of soothe your body, get into like that state of calm so that you're not in a state, like you're not primed for nightmares or overthinking while lying in bed. And this is another thing that I think a lot of people know. Having a dark and cool environment is better for our sleep.
Right.
Not sure why the cool, but dark because of the circadian rhythm. Again, you know, your biological clock is meant to mimic the outdoors. Nighttime, your body takes in the nighttime, the melatonin production. That's how your body's supposed to sleep.
Yeah.
But
I
if
think
it's all...
I think the cool, like something about the parasympathetic, I don't know if I'm saying this right. This is from my like old biology anatomy classes, but I think it induces that system where that's supposed to be activated in your sleep, that like relaxation state, like the parasympathetic
when
system.
It's cooler.
Yeah.
I can
like
see that.
Cold showers help with that. And
yeah. I've heard that, to kind of like almost like a reset to your body.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. That makes sense. Thank you, Michelle, for your remembering biology.
I know I probably butchered the name or completely I'm off, but that's my hunch.
The parasympathetic nervous system. I think that sounds right, but I honestly could not point my finger and tell you for sure. Yeah. But, you know, the dark thing, though, like something that really stood out to me in the podcast, what she was talking about, the importance of the darkness, is even like the smallest, like literally the smallest light can still have an effect on your sleep. Like even the smallest thing, like if you have a TV, you know, the little red light that blinks or
Yeah.
just stays red, even
It
that can have an
impact.
impact apparently. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's just wild to me. It's very
Yeah.
interesting. She has research to back it up. Again, I did not take copious notes here, so I don't remember
No,
what they
that's
were.
okay. Yeah.
But I do know that that was
It's
really cool
interesting.
tidbit that stuck out. Mm.
I mean, like, even with your eyes closed, you could still see light versus dark. Like, if there's a light that shines towards you with your eyes closed, like, you can still sense that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. But I mean, like the red light on the TVs are just so
Yeah, I
minuscule. It's
know. It's interesting.
fascinating that even that can
But,
impact.
like, even the smallest light can, in a way, without maybe not into our human eye, can light up a room in some way.
Right. Yeah,
So I wonder if
definitely.
that, like, has, like, a subtle subconscious effect.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Maybe. This is why they say no electronics in your
Right. I'm
your
guilty of
room.
that. My bedside table
So am
has
I.
my Apple Watch, my cell phone. The cell
Same.
phone is my alarm clock.
Yeah, same. But I've started like putting it face down and putting it on do
Oh,
not
that's
disturb
good.
and dimming it all the way.
That's
So
good.
I'm trying
That's
reasonably.
good. That's a good idea. I should do that.
But we do have a TV in the bedroom, so I don't know. I was actually considering like actually putting tape over it at
That's so
nighttime.
funny. Might help.
Hey, if it helps, right? Little
Yeah,
things.
exactly.
Okay, well, other things to improve sleep. Avoid stimulating activities like playing games. You know, as the sun goes down, start dimming your lights, turn on the night mode, turn on dark mode on your
Mm-hmm.
devices, turn down brightness. Don't play video games, don't play horror, you know, podcasts that like get you all,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in a state of
Fight or flight
fear,
mode.
fight or
Yeah.
flight. I think might surprise some people is don't exercise near bedtime.
Mm.
Sometimes I've heard people say, well, it'll tire you out, but it won't because it'll internally raise the chemicals in your body because you are, I forget what chemicals it is exactly, but like maybe it's cortisol or adrenaline, maybe both. But essentially, it's a very stimulating activity to go work out. It gets your heart rate pumping. If it's getting your heart rate pumping, that's not a relaxing activity. It's an, you know, it's a, what's the opposite of relaxing? Yeah,
Being
we are very
active.
tired.
The
It's
opposite
an
of
active,
exercising.
no, the
Opposite of
opposite of relaxing.
stressing.
I like that. Yeah, that works. It's a
Well, like even
stressing
exercise
activity.
can like induce not like cortisol, like stress, but like, it stresses out your
Yeah.
body in some way. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, it
which
does.
can
That
have
is
a
considered a
similar
stress.
effect of your body, like a stress response. You're right.
Absolutely.
So having that near bedtime, it makes sense, like to not be recommended.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the myth of it'll relax you, it'll make you feel tired. Not true. It'll
Mm-hmm.
stimulate you. That's what I was looking for. Stimulate. It will stimulate you. So don't work out in the evenings, or at
There
least
you
like
go.
right before bed, maybe 3 hours
Yeah.
before bedtime. Don't do it.
Yeah. There you go.
And same 3 hour principle I think applies to eating as well. So it's just better for your digestion if you have a window of space, cushion time
Yeah.
from your last bite, some calorie consumed, to when you're falling asleep.
Mm.
So if this 10 to 4 thing is going to be your thing, wrap up your foods 3 hours before. So 7 o'clock, no more eating. Finish your eating by then so you can digest properly. And that way, when you're sleeping, your restorative powers, your blood, your energy, it's not all rushing to digest. Because if it's
Yeah.
rushing to digest your food, you know what it's not doing? It's not helping you restore and heal in other ways, which it
Yeah.
needs. So you're taking away those valuable, precious moments between 10 to 4 to restore.
Yeah.
That's why it's, I think, important to do like that 3 hour window. Other stimulating things to avoid: caffeine. Alcohol is a depressant technically, but it does mess with your quality of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar, avoid that as well, particularly
Yeah.
afternoons and evenings. Yeah, particularly afternoon and evenings. And, you know, in general, as a general rule, like It'll also help your digestion if you maybe eat a little bit lighter during dinner time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. Now, this next one is not my favorite because, as you know, Michelle, I am very much sensitive to the sunlight and I don't want to look or feel the sunlight too much.
Yeah.
But it helps your biological clock, your circadian rhythm, if you can, as soon as you wake up in the morning, go outside for a little bit and just kind of stay under sunlight. If not sunlight, at least just light. But basically to wake yourself up and to like kind of signal to your body that this is awake time, you need to be able to bask in the sun. Even 5 minutes will do the trick. I've been trying to do this and it has been hard because, like I said, I'm really sensitive to sunlight. So I'm literally just kind of like barely opening my eyes and then I'll open it a little bit more and then open a little more. It's a struggle. But it does
you're
work.
Doing little things. You think it makes a difference?
It makes a lot of difference because I struggle typically to wake up in the morning because I just feel like kind of groggy and I'm like, I tell myself I'm not a morning person. I tell myself I'm a night owl. So like all of these like thought barriers kind of stop me too from just kind of embracing it and letting my body get used to its actual natural state, which is that we all technically are morning people.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's hard when you wake up at 5 a.m. and you leave when it's dark.
Definitely. Because it's still dark. Your body's like, wait, what? I'm sleeping.
I'm like, I needed to take walks outside, you know, like even mid-morning or something. It might be good for me. Like get some sunlight.
Definitely. Can help kind of reinvigorate your cells.
Right.
But the other really fascinating thing that I found or that I heard on her interview podcast was like it's such an inaccurate thing. It's a myth to say that we're night owls and like what is it, morning worms or whatever it is. Ew, such a gross
morning bird or the
morning birds. Thank you, early birds.
Yeah, early birds. There you go.
Sounds better than morning worms. What are morning worms? I don't know.
Oh, it's the saying, right? Like the early bird gets the worm.
Early bird gets the worm. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I remember the wrong part of it. So gross.
Yeah.
But it's such a myth though that we can be divided into those two things because apparently in a study done in I think it was Colorado, they found that without screens, trying to mimic the natural like sunrise sunset after 3 days, every single person in the study, and I think in the whole town did the study, they were able to within 30 minutes of each other wake and sleep at the same time. Every single person.
Wow.
Within 30 minutes of each other all found a natural wake and sleep time that were similar. That's
without
crazy.
Like any like intention, right? Like wow.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah.
Because they had like they were mimicking the sunrise to sunset. Yeah. And I think they didn't have access to screens at that time too. I think that was a key part of it. But it's just so interesting. They really do. Yeah. They really do. There's actually research out there that just looking at a screen creates stress in the body. It doesn't even have to be something like
stimulating,
triggering or stimulating. Just looking at a screen, apparently, because we haven't evolved enough for screens, it creates a stress response in our body. Isn't that fascinating? Something we do all the time.
Fascinating, yeah.
And sad, but fascinating.
Yeah, sad. Because all of our lives are around screens. It's crazy.
So around.
Work,
yeah.
Like phones.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, but the most insane thing was finding out that we all are technically, given our true biological clocks, we all kind of embody the same cycles, sleep-wake cycles. That's so fascinating because I'll get into it in my story, but all of my life I really did think I was like, no, I'm a night owl. I'm not a morning person at all. But that's just like a thought barrier. Those are just things we tell ourselves and then what we do. Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
So those are all of the tips I have on how to improve sleep. The last bit of research I'll share is from a journal of clinical sleep medicine.
Okay.
And I'm going to summarize it as best as I can here, but essentially the objective was to review summaries on race-based sleep health disparities between Asian Americans and other American racial groups and compare sleep outcomes. So they basically gathered data on like sleep duration, sleep quality, sleep disturbances, and sleep disorders. And what they found was that Asian American adults experience lower sleep duration and poorer sleep quality compared to non-Hispanic white Americans, and comparable or slightly higher sleep duration compared to Black Americans. Within Asian Americans, first-generation immigrants reported better sleep quality than the subsequent generations, which that one surprised me a little.
Yeah.
East Asian Americans may experience better sleep outcomes compared to Southeast Asian Americans. Doesn't say why, though. And then this one was a little bit of a fascinating little nugget here. Obstructive sleep apnea is critically underreported in South Asian Americans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's like
clearly
almost
it must
like,
be
oh,
for
people
them
don't
to
want
tack it on.
yeah, like they don't want to share
like
what's going on, or I don't know if there's much representation in data collection or not, if it's underreported.
Yeah. Plus, I almost wonder too if it's like maybe normalized so they don't see like the symptoms as like, oh, this is sleep apnea.
Yeah. Or my irritability is, because of my lack of sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Interesting.
So their conclusion was that the sleep disparities between Asian Americans and other racial groups are impacted by perceived discrimination, poor mental health, and cultural attitudes towards sleep. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
The observed within-group disparities of Asian American sleep may be attributed to socioeconomic status and generational status / acculturation. Existing barriers to research include the model minority myth. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
That there is even a study, but like the reasons, I mean, it makes sense. Except for I'm curious about the first generation immigrants reporting better sleep quality than subsequent generations, because I would kind of see it as the first generation might face some more stress and like anxiousness and more fight or flight even. So that one kind of surprises me.
That is surprising.
Yeah. And this one, this study was cited to, I don't want to butcher it, but Nandagiri V, Vana M. Reddy S, and Spector A, I think. And it was on sleep disparities in Asian Americans, a comprehensive review. So if you want to read further, Michelle,
sounds interesting.
You are welcome to.
Yeah.
You can tell me why. But yeah, that is my research on sleep, its importance, and its effect on mental health.
It's a huge one. Big topic. Very important. Sleep is
Do you feel like you knew?
Necessity.
Yeah. Do you feel like you knew all of that stuff, or do you feel like you learned
read
anything?
about it, heard about it, like,
Yeah.
But like the 15 years, I was surprised by that.
Shift workers.
And then like the consistency of
being so important,
waking up at the same time, because I thought that was a myth, but apparently it's not from a research.
It's not.
So
yeah.
It's interesting.
The interesting thing too, she goes on to say technically shift workers are considered the workers who work in the evening to early hours in the morning. But according to her research, because of the 10 to 4 window, if we, just general people who work day jobs, are awake during those hours as well, we are considered shift workers, according to this research.
Interesting.
So we, being awake during that window, have a higher risk too of being considered a shift worker, of, on average, shortening our lifespan by 15 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, most of us do that.
Yeah.
It's rare. I don't really know a lot of people who sleep at 10 or before. It's rare.
It is.
Mind blown.
Mind blown. Time to go to sleep.
Yeah, it's time. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta go to sleep. It's almost.
It's
Just
almost
kidding.
8, 2 hours before our window.
Almost 8. We gotta make it.
I know, right?
All right. Well, against the race against this clock, I will share my story with sleep. Are you
Okay,
ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Okay.
I want to hear your story.
Well, my story is a pretty short one because, like I said, I always thought I was a night owl.
I know that about you.
I felt often that waking up early is like, why wake up early when you can stay up late?
Yeah.
That was always my mentality. And
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Being up at late night, that's when all the crazy stuff happens. Woohoo! But I feel like now I can look back on it. Now that I've been trying the other way, like I feel like I can truly look back on it and be like, oh yeah, like no wonder I felt kind of like groggy and like sleepy and like tired. It's because I would sleep at like 12:30. That was like sleeping at 12:30 I considered was a good thing. I was like, yeah, I slept on time, which tells you just quite how late I stay up usually.
Yeah.
Not great. But I did notice that I usually felt more tired, more fatigued. But I kind of chalked it up because I have, like PCOS and hypothyroidism. I've often chalked it up to, oh, it's just my thing. It's not because of my sleep. My sleep is fine.
Yeah.
I have on numerous occasions to anybody who's told me to sleep earlier, I'd been like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is my body's functioning just great like this. Trust me. I was very much in denial. But then, I listened to this podcast recently and I decided, you know what? I'm trying really hard this year to be, create healthier habits for myself. And like, this is just something I can try. If this is what research says, can't hurt me. Let's just actually see. And like, I literally just did it as a challenge to myself. I have not been doing it that long. Max 1 week. I literally listened to this podcast on my trip up to Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's been a recent thing, but already like I feel on day 1, I thought it would be hard, but on day 1, Michelle, I woke, like I slept, complete darkness, blackout curtains, taped the TV light, everything, complete darkness. I slept not at 10, I slept at 10:30. 10 is a bit harder for me, but I slept at 10:30.
That's good.
I woke up at, I think 7:30, like plenty of sleep time, plenty.
Yeah.
Which probably also helped. And I woke up, I looked at like, it wasn't really sunny at that time. It's winter time. It's not very sunny. But I tried to like, turn on the lights overhead and like kind of slowly open my eyes.
Yeah.
And day 1, like I noticed, I felt alert. I felt awake. I didn't have the mental fog, like the brain fog. And I just felt like I had like some more energy. I was really blown away because I really thought it would take me like 3-4 days to get adjusted. But day 1, I was like, wow, like there has to be some truth to this.
Yeah. Sleep
is crazy.
Important.
Yeah. So I'm a believer. Now I definitely try to do like a whole 10:30 to 7 kind of a sleep. Gives me plenty of sleep. I can wake up and I have time to do things. And I do sometimes, like on some days, I will still struggle with the idea, because like, for example, today we have a podcast. After our podcast recording, I'm not like screens out by, I think 9:30, right? So 9:30. So I won't really have time to read a book on my Kindle. I won't have time to go watch my K-dramas or whatever it is that I'm going to be doing, right? So it is a little bit hard to get around the mentality of like, I had a long day. I'm not going to be able to relax. That is one of the struggles I still face.
Yeah.
Sticking to this with discipline. But I'm trying to reframe it and remind myself, for example, tomorrow when I wake up, because I didn't get to do anything yesterday and today, tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to read a book. Or I'll watch one of my K-dramas.
There you go. 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30. You're so cute.
Yeah, 7:30. It's fine. I can do that in the morning. Who says it has to be an evening thing?
Exactly. I love it.
So I'm trying to shift these beliefs that I've held on to so strongly, and like these beliefs that I thought I knew. And I'm trying to just kind of experiment with it and try to create some more like discipline around this. Yeah. And, for us,
So
this is our
awesome.
first podcast we're recording into the new year. So I want to share real fast. I usually do intentions. I do like 1 or 2 words
Yeah.
of intentions. I don't do like resolutions. And my
Yeah.
intentions kind of dictate how I act the rest of the year in different buckets of my life. Guess what my intention is this year?
Sleep related.
Not exactly, but it's a bucket under the word. My intention this year is discipline. I'm really challenging
Wow.
myself this year to be disciplined and just showing up for myself, even if it's hard in the moment, whether that be what I eat, when I go work out,
Yeah.
sleep, even work sometimes, doing the extra administrative work,
Yeah.
the marketing work that I don't want to do. I'm going to show up.
I'm so proud of you. Good job.
I mean, I feel like it's a little early to congratulate myself. You can tell me December
No.
31st.
There you go. But, I like starting it and setting those intentions is a big step too. Like awareness, intention, and acting on it, implementing it.
Yeah.
So you're doing that.
Exactly. I like intentions too because I feel like they're easier to do than resolutions.
Right.
Because intention is just about how you want to live. And then that informs your choices day to day.
Right. I like that.
Yeah. Well, that's my story of night owl, self-proclaimed night owl, to learning how to actually be healthy and do the right things to my body.
I love it. No, I love this.
Yeah.
And I love to hear about your journey because I know like you mentioned to me about like working on yourself when it comes to like prioritizing your rest, self-care, which is part like, rest is part of that. And so it's so awesome to like zoom in and hear more about your journey with that. It's very inspirational and very admirable.
That actually reminds me. Thank you, babe. That's so sweet. I love your cheerleading support. But that reminds me when you said that. I don't know what it is about what you said, but something just triggered a memory for me. Do you remember, like we've talked about often, right? Even on the podcast, like in college when I got diagnosed with like hypothyroidism, essentially, I told you like I had let it get so bad before like I actually did anything about it. And I just realized something.
What?
I did absolutely all the things one should not do to stress your body out. I was not sleeping. That was a time when people used to make fun of me because I literally used to like stand up studying with a book in my hand. I stood so I don't fall asleep. Had a book in hand and I would like be falling asleep standing.
Oh no.
It was that bad. So I was stressing my body out, not sleeping days on end. And I wasn't eating well. I wasn't moving much because I felt like this overwhelming like anxiousness and like just everything that was going on at the time. Trying to just study in very inauthentic ways that were not right for me. And I felt like the trigger of that memory was I stressed my body out in so many ways. It's no wonder that my body reacted and in a cry for help, was like, all right, we're triggering something that you've got in your epigenetics. Here you go. As a cry for help.
Yeah, that's crazy. Mind blown.
Isn't it? Isn't it? That's like I mean, it's sad, but like fascinating.
Yeah. But you're reflecting, and now you're a different Anusha. And
I'm
you
a different
are
girl.
setting intentions, and part of your intentions is taking care of yourself and your body.
Yeah. So, your story time.
Okay. Mine's a little short too. And I really like that you dove deep into like explaining like how sleep and mental health are bi-directional. It's also like cyclical. And I think I relate really, really well, like relate to that very deeply. Just to like give a little bit of background before I go into my reflection on like my sleeping patterns. And so something that I've been very guilty of is like moving sleep to the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to prioritization. So like, if I want to work out, I'm going to make sure I do that. If I'm meal prepping, I'm going to do that. Like if I'm talking to someone or if I have a meeting or something or spending time with family or friends, I'm going to do all those things first or prioritize that. And then if sleep gets knocked out in a way where I get a few hours or less sleep or an hour or 2 hours less of sleep, like I would be okay with that. So like throughout college, growing up, even in high school, right? Like staying up and late for like doing lab reports or like studying, like I would always prioritize a lot of things over sleep. And I would say wasn't completely unaware of my body. Like I quickly really learned that when I have sleep deprivation or when I'm experiencing it and when I don't get enough sleep, my body does react pretty dramatically because I really, really need my sleep, where it's like I feel that mental fog. Like my hair gets like extra greasy all of a sudden, or like my body aches. I'm just tired, and I'm
Yeah.
very easily irritable. Like I've very early on, I want to say like in college, I caught on these signs. And so that's something I've become aware of. And I'm like, okay, I want to prevent this. But I will say like, I'm still guilty of like, I know these things about me, but I'm still like struggling on prioritizing it. And I
Yeah.
think, it relates to a lot of things that I'll get into, but that's kind of like just like my pattern. And like until very recently, I'm like, it's okay to rest and it's okay to prioritize sleep, and telling myself to do that. But, you know, when it comes to sleep, the things that I kind of shared, right? Like when I don't sleep enough, I'm very easily irritable. I don't feel my best. I don't eat well. Um, and and I think it becomes a cycle when it comes to those behaviors and that like my mental health. So I think one thing that it relates to is like I struggled a lot with like overthinking, ruminating, and anxiety, like until very recently when I started doing therapy. And so that contributed to my sleep as well. So I would be overthinking at night, feeling anxious, and that would like I would not be able to fall asleep. And then I would lose sleep. And then when I'm experiencing lack of sleep and sleep deprivation, I feel more anxious and I tend to overthink more. So again, it was like that back and forth, that cycle. Um, and the things that you talked about, right? Like I wrote down in my story too, like I tried to have a bedtime routine. That was hard to keep because I wasn't prioritizing my bedtime routine or sleep. Trying different strategies like relaxation techniques before bed, like deep breathing, turning off screens. But again, right, like I wasn't prioritizing those things. So like I would tell myself I want to do it, but then I wouldn't. Um, and I think this behavior was very normalized growing up in my household. For my parents, like responsibilities, work, family, all of these things trumped rest and sleep for my parents. And
Yeah.
then I think their lack of sleep contributed to their irritability that I experienced. And of course, when I was young, like I didn't put two and two together. So I would blame
Right.
myself for their irritability or their ruminating tendencies. But then it wasn't until later I realized, like, wow, like it's their lack of sleep that's to blame for their irritability. So, I'm currently in the process of like undoing that work and like accepting that lack of sleep is not normal and it is a need and not a choice or luxury. And that's something I'm like keep affirming and telling myself like it's a need, it's not a choice for me, it's not a luxury. Sleep is important. Because I
It's
will say like,
foundational.
I'll feel guilty for choosing rest over spending extra time with family or friends or doing some work. So just I keep telling myself like it's important to get that rest. And for me, like someone who wakes up really early, like 5 a.m. for work, like it's like what we talked about, right? Like it's hard to choose your sleep when you are missing something out, maybe with family and friends in the evening when you're trying to go to sleep at 10, right? And so I'm accepting that quality sleep is a need and I deserve it. It's actually like I've noticed that when I start having that mindset and that shift, like I'm starting to feel that, like it's actually calming, like my stress and the tendencies, like even the thoughts of telling myself, like I deserve the rest, I need it, and then starting to act on it, like I can feel like the stress, like decrease in my body and feeling less overwhelmed, and I feel happy that I'm prioritizing that what my body and my mind need. But it's so unfortunate too, like when things happen, right? Like just very recently, like I went on a trip and I was so relaxing. I got so much sleep, right? Like I was making sure I was prioritizing my rest after all the wedding craziness. And then of course the very last day when I'm trying to come back, I lose sleep. And then I come back like, the very last moment I can. And then I only get like 4 hours of sleep before going to work. But of course, like, the next day I tried to correct it and get some rest and nap and not work out, right? Like I went to sleep early. But it's unfortunate too. Like things happen in our lives where you do lose sleep and it's out of your control. And so like, what are you doing afterwards to correct that? Like, right. Like, are you prioritizing it afterwards? And that's like the big thing, like big choice.
Absolutely.
So I think it's
It's a
just
hard
like,
thing.
yeah, it is hard.
It
And
is
I think
hard.
it has to do with like speaking up for yourself too. Like, again, right? Like the
Mm,
recovering people
yeah.
pleaser, like speaking up and saying, like, okay, it's my bedtime. Like, I have to go to sleep. I'm
Yeah.
tired. Like, it's being assertive too, and knowing that, okay, being assertive with your needs and the need of sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to continue to talk, or I would love to continue watching the show with you, but I really need sleep.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like it can be a hard thing. Not, I mean, obviously because we are people pleasers, but
Yeah,
even more so because so much of social interaction these days tend to be at nighttime.
right, right. Which is
Whether
so
it's,
hard.
it is.
Yeah,
Because then it
and if
feels
you,
like you have to choose.
yeah, and if you think about it, like a lot of like, at least the South Asian culture I grew up in, like a lot of desi time, right? Like dinner doesn't start till like 8 or 9 o'clock.
8:30. Oh,
Yeah, or like
I
9 o'clock
know.
at weddings sometimes,
I know.
And so like
Yeah.
it's just so interesting. Like you have like so much of the culture has to do
Yeah.
with late night things, like
Yeah.
family gatherings at dinner time, and then you stick around, drink chai, you're with each other till midnight, 1 o'clock, right? Like it's just part of the culture to stay up
Yeah.
late. And of course, these
Absolutely.
are like one-off things. Maybe it's the holidays or like gatherings, but like you said, like that can affect it too, right? Like it
No,
ruins the
that's my
consistency.
day-to-day life. Growing up,
Yeah.
literally, we would eat at 8, 8:30
Yeah.
and go to sleep
Yeah.
at like 12. It
Right.
was like you said, it was a very normal occurrence. And I saw my parents growing up, and even now, repeating that same behavior. They
Yeah.
sleep late into, I mean, my dad's a whole other case. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
moved to India, he's
Yeah.
working American hours. So he actually works during his prime 10 to
Shift
4.
hours. Yeah.
He is literally a shift
Shift
worker. And
worker. Yeah.
gosh, it just like worries me to no end. I keep telling him about it. He's been doing this for like maybe 2, 3 years now, 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even, because he was
Mm-hmm.
also studying. Remember, he did his
Yeah.
master's. 5, 6 years even. Oh my gosh, I need to have a conversation
I
with him.
know.
Dad, if
Yeah.
you're listening, please sleep more.
Yes. Yes. Please
But
do.
you're so right. It's like tied into our culture as a whole, our familial gatherings, day-to-day living, or on occasion, like when we get
Yeah.
together. But for me, it was literally a day-to-day living. I would eat dinner with my parents 8, 8:30, sometimes 9 if my dad got home late.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to bed at like what, 11:30, 12, 12:30, 1, depending on what's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
All the wrong things. It's all the
Yeah.
wrong
But
things
it's
to our
so
health.
deeply rooted, right? Like in the culture.
Yeah. And it's hard to even like, I feel like, for example, like I'm doing it. I'm prioritizing it because I want to do it. But if I were to go share that with somebody, like one of my family members, for example, they might not feel like they can do it because to them,
Mm-hmm.
they might prioritize the connectedness that they get from it. And then, not having that is quite a big
Yeah.
change, right? How can you ask someone to not do
Mm-hmm.
that? It's
It's
hard.
almost like, advocating for your own sleep, you might have to set boundaries or like be
Absolutely.
assertive and be like, but that's the hard part because you don't want to
That's
miss
the
out
hard
on the
part.
fun, you know?
Absolutely. But that's where this really all comes into play, right? I mean, there's it, like take for example like eating healthy, whatever that means to you as an individual, moving, exercising, whatever that means to you as an individual, like all those things, unless you grew up with those habits, those don't come very naturally to
Mm-hmm.
most of us.
Mm-hmm.
Those are
Right.
things we have to like put intention towards and
Right.
learn what's right for us and
Mm-hmm.
have discipline in trying to maintain it instead of doing like fad diets or like we set resolutions but by January 30th like they're abandoned because it's just too hard and we haven't set
Yeah.
the boundaries and like we haven't reshifted our lifestyle, we haven't reshifted our why are we even doing this.
Yeah.
And this just feels like another one of those things to me and likely to a lot of people. This is a lifestyle. This is not a
Yeah.
fad that you do for a little while and be like, oh, yeah, this is great. Oh, it's another hard thing and I can't do it. Those are the barriers that we tell ourselves. We can do it. We just need a really strong why. We just need some
Mm-hmm.
time to build habit, some
Right.
ability to create discipline, not motivation,
Yeah.
right? Motivation comes from seeing change or
Mm-hmm.
from that initial excitement. Motivation doesn't stick around. But the
Right.
discipline is what gets us to that finish line of what we're looking for. Health,
Yeah.
happier life in the future with all our loved ones, being able to, I don't know, at 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, be a really active old person, being able to move around, play with kids, run around after them, whatever it is.
It's a big topic. Very, very up and coming and very important. Who knew that sleep it can be related to boundaries? Boundary setting.
I love that. Okay, I need that in a t-shirt immediately.
There you
ASAP.
go. There you go.
Maybe even a hat. BBQ, Bad Boundary Queen, aka
barbecue.
Barbecue?
BBQ.
No. Oh, I
Bad
just heard
Boundary
it.
Queen. I love it.
Barbecue. I will henceforth be known as Barbecue on this podcast.
There you go. There you go.
Oh boy.
Right. On that note,
alrighty,
we should get some rest tonight.
On that note, I am going to go off my screen so I can get a good night's sleep.
There you go. All right.
See you out, Michelle.
Well, if anything related to any of your experiences that you would like to share with us, you can always reach us at our email, talksouthasiantome@gmail.com, or you can DM us at our socials. Our handle is at talksouthasiantome. We would love to hear from you. All right.
We'll be taking a short break between season 1 and season 2.
Woohoo.
But we will be back soon with lots of new fun topics and maybe a little bit of a change in format.
Yes.
But just as excited to keep it going.
Good things are coming, and happy season 1. Woohoo.
Woo, we did it.
Yay.
See you in season 3. Or no, season 2. Oh, I jumped ahead.
Season 2.
There will be a season 3, I'm sure, though.
There you go. All right, bye.
Alrighty, bye.